Welcome back for another week of Josh's NFC West breakdowns. And, I felt pretty confident that Seattle was going to get a victory over the Saints relatively comfortably, but they really blew New Orleans out of the water. It was an incredible game that Seattle absolutely dominated start to finish in all three phases of the game. It was just what the doctor ordered for the Seahawks, and we're finally starting to see some consistency on the offensive side of the football. This could be a dangerous team moving forward, and importantly, they added one more check mark, which is turning Lumen Field back into that ferocious home field advantage we're used to seeing up in Seattle. Well, here on Josh's NFC West breakdowns, we let the film tell us what we're seeing, so let's get right into it. The Saints start the game with the ball. They would move to midfield, but then they would be facing a 4th down and 2, and they make the decision to go for it. Why? Well, take a close look at where this ball is spotted, right on the 45-yard line. From here, it would be about a 62-yard field goal. Not impossible in the modern NFL, but still not an easy kick, and Seattle is a difficult place to kick the football, so the Saints make the decision to go for it. So let's take a look at the play design. And it's an interesting strategy by the Saints, I think, to put it politely. I don't quite know if I agree with it, but they have sent 3 receivers way down the field, I think in the hopes of opening up something underneath, kind of right past that line to gain here. But Seattle has this well covered. In addition to this, the Saints have used one of their eligible receivers to help with pass protection. I do wonder, once the pass pro broke down, why didn't he leak out for a pass? In any event, Alvin Kamara does get lost in the coverage and is going to come wide open down the field. The obvious drawback to this is that these deep throws are lower percentage plays. Spencer Rattler is going to have to throw this ball about 30 yards down the field on the run, and he has to fit it in before Kobe Bryant can come over and make a play on the football. Instead, Rattler would hang this ball. Easy for me to criticize a 35-plus yard throw on the run while I sit here comfortably in my chair. But either way, the pass falls incomplete, and the Saints turn the ball over on downs. But why did the pass protection break down? The answer? Number 99, Leonard Williams. He easily beats the left guard, and the tight end, Jack Stoll, is slow to help with pass protection. Spencer Rattler has to scramble, and DeMarcus Lawrence has an angle to pursue. Now, we know the throw was off, but I think we do have to acknowledge that Kobe Bryant is quickly becoming one of the premier defensive backs in the NFL. So the Seahawks take over, but they would have some pass protection problems of their own. With a free rusher heading right towards the quarterback, Sam Darnold shows some nice elusiveness in the pocket. Darnold would flee the pocket, and JSN sees him. Now, in the old days, they would teach these receivers, when you see your quarterback scrambling, run towards him, right? Make that an easier throw for the quarterback under the circumstances. Nowadays, teams have more advanced scramble rules, so Jackson Smith-Njigba goes deep. And here, Darnold makes a nice throw on the run, gets him the football, and it's a gain of 29 yards. And that is great chemistry between Sam Darnold and JSN. And from this angle, we get a great look at what was probably a miscommunication on the offensive line. The Saints line up with 5 men at the line of scrimmage, so the right guard and the right tackle slide over, leaving Brian Breesy unblocked. Elusiveness in the pocket, scrambles, gets his eyes downfield, and then an accurate pass on the run. Great quarterback play from Sam Darnold. Before the snap, the Seahawks put the rookie Torrey Horton in motion, and at the snap, all the offensive linemen move to their right. The Saints react because this looks like a running play to Ken Walker. but Seattle is going to bring JSN all the way around to the other side. And this is a great play design, and we're going to talk about why when we look at this from the other angle. For now, Darnold makes another nice pass on the run to JSN. Touchdown Seahawks. Seattle strikes first. All right, and Clint Kubiak really did design a nice one here. Now, why do I say that? Well, this is a variant of a play we've taken a look at a lot on this channel. But again, I really like the design here. Ordinarily, I might show a play where a quarterback sits in the pocket and makes 3, 4, or even 5 reads on a play, going from one receiver to the next. It's not very often we get a chance to see a quarterback do this on the run, but that's what Sam Darnold is asked to do here. Well, when you're designing these plays, if you want to make it easier for your quarterback to go through his progressions, you want these progressions to occur naturally within his field of vision. Here, we're going to see 3 different progressions, all right in the same general area that Sam Darnold is looking. He makes his first read to AJ Barner. There's a man all over him, so he moves on to Cooper Kupp. Quickly comes off of that read and finds JSN. Again, this is a really nice built-in progression by Clint Kubiak into this play, and it makes the play a success. Seattle goes up early on the Saints. The Saints do get the ball, and they would try to get a drive going, but here they're facing a 3rd down and 1, and once again, it's Leonard Williams that penetrates and stops the play for no gain. Fourth and 1, and the Saints decide to go for it on their own 38-yard line. And we talked about this in our video looking at the 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. Because teams are just getting such good field position now with these new kickoff rules, you're going to see more and more of these 4th down attempts from teams within their own territory. So let's take a look here. Are they going? Are they not? Is Rattler just trying to draw them off sides? Well, this is interesting. They are lined up in the tush push formation. Now, I want you to watch very carefully here. The left guard is going to move before the snap of the football. Watch this. And there it is. This is what these teams are talking about with the Philadelphia Eagles maybe gaining an unfair advantage by having their guards move early, and it's difficult for the officials to spot that. Well, all the referees were given special instruction this week from the NFL to keep a close eye on just that. Of course, they can't just look at the Eagles. That wouldn't be fair. They've got to look at every team that's trying this across the board. And look at this. The official comes in signaling a false start. The Saints would be moved back 5 yards and forced to punt. Okay, and Kaya Kroger boots this thing from the 23, and it goes all the way down, wow, look at that, to the 8-yard line. That's almost a 70-yard punt, and that's a problem. Kaya Kroger is a rookie, and what he's done here is he's outkicked his coverage. You know, if we go back to those great Packer teams from the 1960s, it was Don Chandler who discovered that the key metric for punts wasn't distance, it was hang time. You know, you kick it really far, but then these guys are getting these huge returns. But if you put hang time on the punt, your coverage team gets down there and makes the tackle, and your net punting average goes up. Well, here Kroger has outkicked his coverage. There's really only one guy down there within 10 yards, and the next closest guy after that is 7 or 8 yards away. And Torrey Horton is able to easily outrun them, and then he gets north and south. See that? Kicker gets blown up, and Horton is gone. 50, 40, 30, and this would be credited as a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. And just like that, Seattle is already up 14-0. Exactly how you want to start this game if you're the Seattle Seahawks. But if you've watched any amount of football, you know a 14-0 lead, is not insurmountable by any means. The Saints need to put together a good drive here, but instead we would see a disastrous series of plays. After the false start, the Saints would get some of that yardage back, but here it's 2nd down and 10, and we see Chris Olave in motion, but you can't move towards the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped, right? You don't get like a head start. If you do, you have to get set for at least 1 second first. The timing is completely messed up here. Olave is moving towards the line of scrimmage at the snap of the football. That would be another false start penalty. On 2nd and 15, we would see that once again Leonard Williams is a factor, but not in the way you might think. He's become so disruptive, the Saints use their left tackle, Kelvin Banks Jr., to try to hit him first and then slide over to pick up Derek Hall. Kelvin Banks is just a rookie, and Hall builds up more of a head of steam than I think maybe Banks was expecting, and he just brings him down in full view of the official. The flag would come out for holding, and now the Saints would be faced with a 2nd down and 25. That 2nd and 25 would eventually turn into a 4th down and 12, so once again the Saints would be forced to punt. The personal protector completely falls asleep at the wheel here, and the kick is blocked. The kick is blocked, loose football, and we've got a great shot here. The Saints do recover it, but well behind the line of scrimmage. Obviously, it was 4th down, so New Orleans would turn the ball over on downs to the Seattle Seahawks. And here we see something really cool. It's a pretty basic running play. The Seahawks have a tight end in the formation, and Kenneth Walker is just going to follow the block of rookie fullback Robbie Oust. But the right guard takes an L, so Ken Walker has to widen his run more than he was expecting. And here's the really cool part. We see a couple of veterans going at it. Defensive end Carl Granderson now has an angle to try to get at Ken Walker. But the Seahawks have their veteran tight end, Eric Sauber, in on this play. And he knows not to hold Granderson. He doesn't hold him. He lets him go. He trusts in the abilities of Ken Walker. Walker puts a move on Granderson, keeps moving forward, and gets in for the touchdown. That was awesome. The Saints would mount a drive, so let's move ahead a little bit, and after a terrific pass breakup from Josh Jobe knocking the ball away from Chris Olave, they decide to kick a field goal on 4th and 4. That's an interesting decision. You're down 21-0. You might feel compelled to go for it there. You know, Madden used to say the first points of the game are the most difficult. You're on the road. You've got to get something on the scoreboard. I'm okay with them kicking the field goal in this circumstance here, but we're going to look at a few more throughout the game, and you guys can tell me what you think. In any event, after this, the Saints have to kick off to the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I know this is a little hard to see here, but this is worth it. They've got their defensive end out there, Mike Morris, and he throws a tremendous block. And just keep your eyes on Morris, sticks with it, and the returner is gone. Morris celebrates, he makes a great play, kicker whiffs or makes a business decision, and it's a 60-yard kickoff return for Derek Young. Up 21-3, Seattle goes for the kill shot. They send Torrey Horton deep, taking the corner and the safety with him, and this allows A.J. Barner to come underneath them but over the top of the linebacker. Darnold makes the right read and fits this ball in there. And this is really outstanding pass protection, especially the one-on-one blocks on the left side by Eric Sauber and Charles Cross. And watch Darnold react after the throw. Ooh, but he gets the football to him. Maybe he didn't put it right where he wanted to, but he is still able to get it out there, and it's a big gain for the Hawks. Seattle would finish off the drive by putting Cooper Kupp in motion, and Alontae Taylor would go with him, telling the Seahawks that the Saints are in man coverage. New Orleans would also drop a safety down to pick up A.J. Barner, so Sam Darnold knows pre-snap that he's going to have Torrey Horton in man-to-man coverage one-on-one to the outside with no safety help. And it's a beautiful pass from Darnold. Great touch on the ball. Touchdown Seahawks, and they are pouring it on. Seattle goes up 28-3 in just the second quarter, and they would get the football back. With a comfortable lead on the scoreboard, the most natural thing to do on first down here might be to run the football. So Seattle lines up with 2 tight ends and a running back in the formation. Understandably, Demario Davis would come on the run blitz, and the Saints did defend the run well in this game. And sometimes when your opponent is doing something well, you can actually exploit that. And we would see an attempt by Seattle to do that here by sending Jackson Smith and Jigba deep. And we can see JSN has beaten his man off the line of scrimmage. But defensive coordinator Brandon Staley seemed to anticipate this strategy from Seattle and actually makes a good defensive play call here, leaving 3 men back deep. The safety, though, Justin Reed, has only one job on this play: don't get beat deep. And here he's completely flat-footed. JSN blows right by him, and Sam Darnold immediately spots the mistake. 45-yard gain on the play. And I can't say enough about Sam Darnold in this game. Think about what he's shown us: elusiveness, the ability to throw on the run, and he's making great reads. He's seeing the field really well. And here he also shows a little bit of toughness too. Taking a late hit, you can see how far down the field that football already is. So this would be a 15-yard personal foul for roughing the passer on top of the 45-yard gain. It would be a 60-yard play. In this game, Seattle was a ruthlessly efficient machine, and they finish off the drive here, punching it in with Ken Walker, going up 35-3 in the second quarter. Now, I told you last week that Spencer Rattler would surprise you with some throws. He does have some talents, and here the Saints would mount another drive. Eventually, however, the drive would stall, and with the Saints facing a 4th and 2, they opt for a field goal. Another interesting decision, especially because it's a long one, 52 yards, and it's no good. Ouch. So the Seahawks get the ball at the spot of the missed kick, and after a few plays would line up for a 56-yard field goal themselves, and they knock it through. Now, why did they make their kick and the Saints miss theirs? Well, for one thing, I think Jason Myers is just a better kicker than Blake Grupe, who's struggled a few times earlier this season already. But something else to think about here is Grupe was kicking towards the Hawks' nest, towards that open end of the stadium where it's more difficult to kick. Jason Myers was kicking towards the closed end. It's difficult either way, but there is a higher percentage of made kicks towards that closed end. It just calls into question, again, Kellen Moore's decision to try for that kick on 4th and 2 when the Saints, desperately need some touchdowns here. All right, the Saints would get the ball back and mount another drive, so let's talk about the game situation here. There's only 13 seconds left in the first half. They've got the ball on the 20-yard line, but importantly here, they only have 1 timeout left. We see another good throw by Rattler here, but Tariq Woolen tackles Rashid Shaheed. This very well could have been a touchdown had he not made that tackle. And when we see from the other angle, we're going to notice something significant here. Woolen tackles Shaheed while he's moving backwards. Because Shaheed's forward progress was stopped while he was in bounds, by rule, that means the clock runs. And look at the official. You can see him run in to wind the clock. The Saints are forced to use their final timeout, and this essentially causes them to decide to kick another field goal rather than go for a risky all-or-nothing touchdown with just a few seconds left to go before the end of the first half. The Seahawks lead at halftime by a score of 38-6. Do you like these videos? Hit that like button. Do you want to see more content like this? Hit the subscribe button. We do these breakdown videos once a week and we stick to the NFC West, and this looks like it's going to be a pretty good year for the Seattle Seahawks. Do you want to help the channel grow? Share this video to your favorite Seahawk groups and pages. We had several of you share these videos last week. I can't tell you how humbled I am by that. Thank you so much. It really does help out the channel. Do you want to go even deeper? We have a Patreon page with bonus content and extra perks. You won't want to miss out on that. As always, it's 100% free to sign up. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys on Patreon. Let's get back to the game. All right, remember the Saints started the game with the football, so that means the Seahawks get the ball to start the second half. And here they line up again with two tight ends and a running back in the formation. Once again, the Saints present a five-man front, but Carl Granderson is actually going to be in coverage of the tight end on the play, so it would just be a four-man rush. Not a running play, it's a fake, so somebody's got to pick up Ken Walker coming out of the backfield, and here Kool-Aid McKinstry just gets mesmerized, and there's absolutely nobody on Cooper Kupp. This is just terrible communication on the back end from the Saints, and against a quarterback like Sam Darnold, you can't do that. Darnold had a 154.2 passer rating in this game. Wow. And again, I can't say enough about the pass protection in this game. 0 sacks allowed by the Seahawks offensive line. The big play would put Seattle in position to tack on another field goal, but here the kick is blocked. And why was it blocked? Well, let's go back and take a look. Here we see Justin Reed, having a bad day already, is offsides. He essentially got a head start. That's why he was able to block the kick. Of course, you're not allowed to do that. The Saints were penalized, so the Seahawks get to try again. And importantly here, they are now 5 yards closer. Jason Myers knocks it through, 41-6. Well, not much has gone right for the Saints today, perhaps the understatement of the year. Spencer Rattler did have a pretty good day throwing the football, completing 71.8% of his passes, but here he's just staring down the receiver and completely frozen. Unclear why. It could be something basic, like maybe the receiver was supposed to turn the other way and Rattler was thrown off. In any event, the clock in his head starts to tick, so he tries to scramble, and Byron Murphy brings him down for the sack. New Orleans would get a touchdown in garbage time, which started early in this game, and the Seahawks would also tack on another field goal. So the final score, Seattle crushes the Saints 44-13. Well, there it is. What a game. That is a wrap. And what are the takeaways from this game? Well, there's quite a few of them. I think number one, Sam Darnold looked really impressive. Like we talked about earlier, you know, he read the field extremely well. He moved well in the pocket. He threw well on the run. He showed some toughness. Everything you want to see out of a quarterback. The run offense, you know, look, the Saints had the luxury of knowing that Seattle was going to be running most of the time with that big lead. They played the run tough. That's about the only thing the Saints really did well in this game. But if we are going to, you know, highlight an area of improvement for Seattle, it could be in that run offense. Special teams, again, I showed you guys a lot of special teams plays on this video. Totally dominant. The defense, again, completely dominant. Third straight week they've held a team to 17 points or fewer, only 13 allowed in this game. Again, no rushing touchdowns allowed. They're the only team in the NFL that has not allowed a rushing touchdown this season. So Seattle dominated in all three phases of the game. And give me your thoughts on it. You know, leave me a comment. I read every comment. But if you're thinking about commenting something like, well, it doesn't count because the Saints are a bad team, you know, I don't really know if I buy into that. This started last week in Pittsburgh with that excellent second half from the Seattle Seahawks. They really are starting to come together. This is 6 consecutive quarters now where we've seen really good play out of Seattle. And look, they could easily be 3-0. They were right there against San Francisco. We have to be honest about that. I see no reason at all that Seattle can't compete for a division championship this year. Folks, if you are a paid member of the Patreon page, I want to thank you so much. Your memberships really allow this channel to be what it is and continue to be what it is into the future. It really does make a difference. You humble me, you honor me. Thank you so much. I really mean it. All right, so how does Seattle take that next step to possibly winning the NFC West? Well, you got to win your games in the division, right? And that starts tomorrow on Thursday Night Football at the Arizona Cardinals. That's going to be an interesting game. Arizona, yeah, they were 3-0 themselves, and then they had a tough defeat against San Francisco at the very last second, losing to a field goal. So it's going to be an interesting game. You have a Cardinals team that clearly does have some talent, but has some flaws as well. I tend to think maybe Seattle is put together a little bit better than the Cards, but we'll have to see. Division games are always close. It's in their house. But I have a feeling that the Seahawks, like I said, are going to be prepared for this game. They sure seem to be putting it all together. It's going to be a great game. I don't know what's going to happen in that game, but we are going to be here to break down that film, and I will see you guys then.